So in this video, I want to start getting the TTL logic onto the board, working from the parts I have on hand. And I have a fair chunk of the parts on hand. I'm looking at what I have here. I'm missing the 128 and the 130 I don't have any of. And the 148s I don't have any of. I'll have to order those. And I found one whole 7476. So I've got bin storage for common parts. And I've got bulk storage for both common and less common parts. And I did find the 7476 in that bulk storage, and it's sitting right here. And the leads are still flayed. It looks like it's probably maybe a new old stock part. I don't know that for sure. I don't know if I can get it to go in with the flayed leads, or if I will need to bend them. I'm going to need to do that. And we'll drop it into place. There's a 7476 at U1, 7476 at U1. We're going to mount it down tight, and we're going to solder two corners. And this is where this is going to get tricky, because I have to shuffle back and forth between glasses. But it is what it is. I'm just going to do two corner pins, and then I can check it for square. Or not square, but for flush. It didn't move. It didn't move. And we're officially started. So I have an 8T26 out here. Those are socketed already. I'm waiting for those parts to be delivered. I don't have the CA3130 yet. I haven't found one yet. I guess it is what it is. LS128, I think, is one of the parts I don't have. LS04s are sitting here. How many LS04s do I need? 1, 2, 3. Just 3. I'm going to actually look and see if I can find 3 matched ones in here. I want nice shiny pins if they're available, so it'll solder easy. And I always have to double check these, because parts do get cross in bins. There's a 7404. So this is a mixed LS and non-LS. There's an LS04. I did bend a pin slightly. LS04. A couple of nat semi parts. I am, of course, fond of nat semi parts just because I used to work there. That's actually a nat semi. Oh, it's an 04. It's not an LS. LS is low power Schottky, which means it's got a much narrower window of transition. There is a, I don't know who, Motorola. Another 7404. Those, the non-LS might actually be more appropriate, but I'm going to use LS logic. LS04 nat semi. Just different date code. Yeah, I'm being way too anal here. Nobody's ever going to notice this but me. LS04 Motorola. LS04 SA. Who is SA? I do not remember. Yes, I have way too many of these. There's an LS04, another SA part. Some surface mount. Those leads are really grubby, and he's not going to be considered. So it's probably a TI part, and looking back down, it is. Another SA. So there are 3 matched SAs. One from 79, 83, and 84. There's a third Motorola. That looks like probably Hitachi. I think that one's Taiwanese. As is that one. Well, HD. There's 3 of those. I'm too picky about this. There's another TI part. The leads are super grubby. Thank you, TI, for whatever you did or didn't do with the leads to cause that. There's another Nat Semi that looks like those. And those 3 are what I'm going to go with. Yep, I'm going to be here a while if this is the approach I'm going to take, but it is what it is. So I've got one right here. Oh, there's a 4th one that I missed most likely. LS04, there's one right there. And there is one right here, it looks like. If I can get it to drop in. And there's one right there. Yeah, I'm short one. There's 4 and I only counted 3 when I did the initial count. There's one there. So I've got one here next to the 555. I've got one there next to the proto socket and one there. And I will need to dig for one more. I am pressing down on the board as I solder, hoping to better secure the device in place. Okay, I can feel the lead there even if I can't see it. And we are just going to reflow and push up with the fingertip, and that one did move, as did that connection. So the part wasn't flush to the board. So one of the 3 wasn't flush to the board. Now it's starting to look like something, and there's one more 04 over here. This one is not getting stuffed with an 04. So we'll go with this direction. Hitachi, Fairchild. See if I can find one more national that looks the same. If not, we will just, that's a TI. The leads are horrible. Hitachi. That's a straight 04. It should actually be in that backside. Hitachi, SGS. National, there's another national part. We'll go with that even if it's not marking wise identical. These are of course not super static sensitive, which is kind of why I treat them this way. And we have an LS04 above the rams right there. Right there. I do have the soldering glasses on. He's seated. We have 128 over here, which we don't have. 148 that we don't have. This is jumpers. 139 that we do have. I think there's only 139 used. Just grab one off the top. This position right here. What's in these little bins is both a mix of new old stock and pulls. One time I was trying to keep it only new old stock, but that was kind of a pipe dream that in the end just was not practical. One lead here being stubborn. There's always one lead that wants to be stubborn. So that's one of the ones that has the rework wire on it. Yep. 139. Jumpers 139. Yep. We are in the right physical location. Where are you? You're right there. Solder the corners. Rework in this case is the wrong, well, it is kind of rework. It's a missing trace that I'm putting into place, and I'm going to go ahead and where that wrap wire comes through, I'm going to go ahead and solder that now, just so that little bit of wrap wire is nice and secure, and then we'll trim the excess wrap wire off, like so, and we've now got a little piece of wrap wire that is soldered along this trace here for about 1/4 inch and then comes over to that pin. So, did I just, nope, 139, that's the right part. Boy, I started to panic for a minute that I had the wrong part in there. LS30. Oh, did I miss LS30? Did I see that correctly? LS30. I didn't pull the drawer. Do I have a drawer of LS30s? I do. You just go pull it. Oh, you get to listen to me groan. We'll do a couple more together, and then I'm just going to stop recording. We don't need to work through all of these together. Just find an LS30, an eligible part in here with good leads. There is an LS30. Goes in this location right here. Most likely a pull because the pins aren't flayed. But honestly, using pulls in a project like this, for me back in the day, would have been really common. I did have a lot of pulls. A lot of them were unsoldered pulls for TTL logic, just because I'd luck into a board someplace that, you know, you had no idea what it was. No internet, you know, no way to figure out what it was. It just was, you know, the information wasn't available, and you'd scrap it. I think I've told this story before with my parents. We went to the dump, loaded up the car, and we went to the dump to dump a bunch of stuff. And I was a kid, and I found a whole stack of 2 foot by 2 foot, probably, boards stuffed with logic there at the dump that hadn't been like ground under yet. This was the old school style dump where you dumped your stuff off and the big tractor came and ran it over and compressed it, and I did say LS123, right? It did. You know, back in the old days when dumps, of course, they still kind of work that same way. And just, I snatched them up before anybody yelled at me to stop, and reclaimed a lot of parts. That was a really lucky find as a kid. A really lucky find. Okay, who's keeping you from going in? Is there, oh, there's tape on the back side, only it's for a different tape's moved out of the way. It's for a potentiometer that has to do with this part, but it needed to be moved out of the way. So that was a really lucky find. I got a lot of interesting logic off of it, and it was really fun to figure out what that logic was. I think at that point, that's back when Radio Shack carried TTL data books. And so I had a TTL data book, and so I was able to look up parts and put them on a proto board and exercise them and learn what they did. So they're really old days. So there's a 123 there. Make sure that's a 123. I know I've looked at it multiple times. 7474. There's a flip-flop. That was interesting. They called for 7474. There's an S7474. I know I've got some straight 74. It's an S again. S might actually be better than straight. I got lots of S. My gut feels I can put an LS in there and not have a problem with it. That's not always true, so do keep in mind that some, especially if it's like an F part, or a part with an S or an F, you want to keep that. If it calls for an F, a fast part, use a fast part. If it calls for a part with an S in it, use a Schottky part, because it may have actually been needed. I've also seen F parts going into a regular socket cause problems because they're too quick, and something's getting onto the bus too quickly, or onto the connection, whatever, and causing problems. I have seen that once or twice. Well, we have soldered more than a couple here together, so anyhow, I will continue on with this. My next steps with this will be come back, verify every location, verify pin 1 is oriented correctly. Luckily there's ones on the drawing I worked from here. And then solder the field of those pins in. So I will see you in the next video. And as I'm starting to try to remember to ask, like or subscribe if you think it warrants it. Comments are appreciated, and I hope to see you in a future video.